Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Future Dimensions 360. As you guys know, in our last tutorial, we had learned what is Context API, why we need Context API, what are the props drilling. This was the same example what we had discussed in our last tutorial. Today, in today's tutorial, we will be implementing the three-level hierarchy of the components, and we will be passing a username from app component to component CD, CF, and G. Like without passing a component as a props to C and F, by using context API, we will be seeing how we can pass the parameter or the data from app component to directly G component. Let me revise what is context API. Context API is a method or technique that provides a way to pass data through the component tree without having to pass props down manually at every level. So let's go ahead and try to see. This is our project. I had set it up already. Three levels of components, very normal. Like I have app.js in which I had created a component C, and this is a simple class-based component. Let me remove this export from here. I had a component C inside it. I just called directly component F, and inside component F, I will just remove this one again. Sorry, it's already removed. No need to remove the class. I'll just pass the component G, and in this G component, what actually I want hello and then username. For example, I'll say I want this hello user name here. Okay, this username should be provided with the help of context API from app.js file. So what are the steps to have context API? The first step is to create context. The second step is to create a provider of context value. And the third one is to consume the context value. So first of all, you have to create a context. Second one, you have to create a provider in which you can provide the value what you want in any component. And the last one is you have to create a consumer. With the help of that, you can consume that value at any level or any component you want. Let's go ahead and try to create a component called userContext.js. Import React in this component. With the help of React, I will say const user context, as I am passing username, so I'll give it the name as user context equals to React.createContext. This is, you have to call the constructor by using parentheses. First of all, I had created a context. Second step is I have to create a provider. I will create a provider user provider equals to user context dot provider. Third step, I'll create a const user consumer equals to user context dot consumer. This is consumer. Lastly, in this component, I have to export both user provider and user consumer. User provider and user consumer. You should be capital TER, not double R. In first, I am making some spelling mistakes. User consumer, and that's it. You can directly export this as well, but I am saving it in a constant to give it a proper name. So I will know that which provider in big projects, you will know that which provider is for which value or which object. So in the second step, now I have to import that provider in the component from where I want to pass the value. In our example, we have to pass the value from app.js, that is username. And it's best to pass this in the username because most of the components are already lying inside the app.js component. I will say user provider, opening and closing bracket. Just wrap all your component inside this user provider where you want to use this context. Now with this user provider, you have a variable as a props you are passing, or you can say value, in which you can pass the value. I will pass future dimensions 360. This value is now available in all the child components. So what is the child components? Component is C, component F, and component G. All the components that are wrapped with this component, you can use this value there. So I want to use in our example in my component G. How can I use it in the return? I'll just cut this one for the meantime. I have to do is I have to import user consumer because I want to consume this value, and then I have to make two curly braces. Inside this I have to pass an arrow function, and inside arrow function what I have to do is I have to return my div username. That value what I passed in my provider should I be available as a parameter inside a callback as a parameter in the consumer. So this value I can just simply call with curly braces inside my JSX, and now I'll move towards my browser and I will see hello future dimensions 360. So this future dimension 360 is appearing from passing from where? From app.js. Let me go ahead and reconcile this. In app.js, I have a user provider in which I'm providing a value that I am not providing or drilling as a props at any level, because I don't need this username in component C and component F. So I don't want to pass it there. I am using a context API. What I did is I just imported a React. I had created a context, and I had created a provider and consumer, and I exported both of them. Provider, I had wrapped all my component with the provider wherever I want that value that is being set it up with the provider, that is future dimensions 360. And I directly move to that component where I need that value. I had imported a consumer. Inside consumer, I passed a callback. In the callback, I get the value as a parameter, and I had used that one. That's pretty much for today's tutorial. I hope you guys understand it in detail. Please don't forget to subscribe and like our channel. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.